The morning sun pours through the high courtroom windows, casting long, inflexible shadows across the varnished wood of the benches. The room grows quiet as latecomers hurry to take their seats. A faint scent of polished wood and leather fills the air, joined by the sweet waft of coffee from a nearby vending machine. Christine sits up front, hands clasped tightly into her lap, her jaw clenched, a silent fire in her eyes. She glares fixedly at Kody across the aisle. His shoulders tight, fiddling with his tie nervously, as if somehow it might shield him from the tempest ready to cut loose. Robyn sits quietly beside him, hands folded neatly on her lap, her posture rigid, belying a calm she does not feel inside. Occasionally, her eyes dart toward the gallery to take in those present, to judge rather than merely to witness. The judge enters, a tall figure with gravitas that fills the room immediately, and the gavel falls like a heartbeat. Slow, commanding, unyielding. Kody swallows, a small bead of sweat running down his temple, and shifts in his seat. Every motion is done with intent, calculated. No amount of preparation can protect him against what will be said. First to testify is Janelle, who rises and takes her place at the stand with grace, though her hands visibly shake. The weight of the courtroom weighs heavy on her, but she makes her way forward with a silent resolve. I've held so many things inside. She begins in a soft, yet resonant tone, things I never thought I would say out loud. Her eyes pass around the room, hold on Kody's gaze, and the silence is immediate, almost deafening. The audience leans forward. They can feel the unsaid tension hanging in the air between them. The lawyer steps forward, a careful figure, armed with papers, pens, and unrelenting curiosity. He begins with a series of carefully constructed questions that draw out details of financial decisions, family meetings, and moments of secrecy buried for years. Christine sits rigid, her fingers interlocked in a display of restrained anger. Kody's hands cannot be tamed. They shake as he readjusts his tie once again and taps his polished shoes against the floor in nervous rhythm. Robyn's calm facade wavers ever so slightly. A flicker of concern crosses her features. Janelle relates late nights when the family argued in hushed tones, whispering about secrets, trying to shield the children from the tensions that roiled beneath the surface. Her voice breaks slightly, revealing her buried emotions. We wanted to believe in him, in Kody, she says softly, but sometimes wanting to believe isn't enough. The courtroom is silent. Words just said hang heavy in the air, thick with tension. The judge even leaned forward, an almost imperceptible frown crossing her face, while the depth of emotion carried through the testimony. Christine stands, her actions calculated, her heels softly clicking against the courtroom floor. It is as if the metronome-like sound fills the room, each step in cadence with the rising tension. You lied to all of us, she says, voice steady but sharp, every syllable cutting through the hushed whispers in the gallery. Kody opens his mouth to respond, but the words falter under the pressure of decades of hidden truth. Robyn, on the other hand, watches silently, her quiet strength masking the storm brewing inside her. The lawyer, sensing the need to escalate, presses forward with more incisive questioning. He asks about financial decisions made without consensus, about moments when Kody decided to be secretive instead of transparent. Each disclosure is a chisel to stone, carving away at the facade Kody has maintained for so long. The tension becomes almost palpable. The audience shifts in their seats uncomfortably, their eyes darting toward each other in a mixture of curiosity and incredulity. Meri is the next to testify. Slowly she gets to her feet, her figure fragile and cloaked in vulnerability. Her eyes shine with unshed tears, but her voice is strong at first. "I trusted him," she says softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "And I don't know if I can ever trust again." The courtroom seems to exhale collectively, as if acknowledging the weight of her words. Kody's face goes pale. For the first time, his composure visibly breaks. He shifts forward in his seat, flashing a glance briefly at Robyn, who gives a look that is part sympathy, part silent reprimand. The story veers from quiet introspection to piercing tension. Christine describes confrontations, long since buried, where she also questions not only Kody's choices, but also his loyalty and love. Janelle shares her private anguish, how so many nights she had cried quietly in her room, wondering if the family she loved was built upon fragile foundations. Each story is punctuated by small gestures. The hand that grips a pew tightly, a foot that taps nervously, or a fleeting glance that can carry volumes. Kody rises briefly, attempting to respond, but the weight of the testimonies silences him. Every attempt to justify past actions feels hollow against the flood of evidence and emotion. Robyn's hands shake slightly, but she remains composed, knowing any outward display of emotion could be misconstrued. The lawyer presses further, asking for specific dates, conversations, and decisions, each question designed to draw out truths long hidden. A critical piece of evidence is introduced, a set of documents carefully compiled, detailing financial choices made without consensus, conversations kept secret, and a web of decisions that implicate more than one family member. Christine leans forward, studying the documents as if memorizing every line. Her expression hardens, a mix of anger and disbelief. Kody shifts uncomfortably, realizing that the truth is no longer negotiable. Janelle's voice is firm, continuing with her list of secret meetings and whisperings. "It wasn't just money," she says, her gaze on Kody. "It was about trust, and you broke it, time and time again." Robyn nods silently, acknowledging the truth in her words, while Meri's lips quiver in her efforts to keep herself together. The courtroom almost becomes cinematic, where the sunlight streaming through the windows casts a moving shadow on the faces of the family, reflecting the emotional turmoil that brews inside. Every listener in the room, from spectators to the judge, feels tension building, as if they themselves are caught in the crossfire of this family's long-concealed battles. Christine finally gets off the stand, deliberate in her movements, each step echoing with unsaid power. She does not look back at Kody, but the intensity in her eyes leaves an indelible mark that is there long after she has moved. Kody remains seated, looking into the empty space in front of him, where she still dominates the room. His hands are flexed in fists, trembling, as he begins to comprehend the full force of the storm he's gotten into. The session closes on a weighted silence. The wives exchange short, loaded glances, each knowing what happened this morning set something irreversible in motion. Kody sat frozen, finally, the weight of years of secrecy pressed on him with a force that all but stopped his heart. The judge called a short recess, but no one moved immediately, the room timing itself out, each heartbeat loud, each breath measured, each eye turned toward the man at the center of it all. Outside the courtroom, there is a ripple of whispers through the gallery. A few head-shaking onlookers exchange quiet speculation, but all feel the same sense of anticipation. Something monumental has started, and nobody knows where it will end. As Kody gathers himself, trying to find words that could explain, justify, or even deflect, the audience senses this is only the beginning. The layers of deception, the emotional fractures, and the secret alliances are only just being revealed. Nobody in the room will be spared. The weight of truth presses down relentlessly, promising that when the next session begins, nothing and no one will be the same. The courtroom is colder this morning, almost antiseptic. Thin sunbeams filter from high windows and cast streaks across the room, illuminating every anxious expression and furrowed brow. The air is heavy, thick with anticipation. If one could personify the walls, they would seem to hold their breath. Robyn mounts the witness stand, her body stiff, hands correctly folded in her lap. Yet there's a slight tremble in her fingers that belies the calm she projects. Her voice starts low, almost tentative. As the story winds on, it strengthens, honed by years of suppressed frustration. "Sometimes I wonder if he ever considered the rest of us," she says, her eyes briefly flicking in Kody's direction. "Or was it always about him? About what he thought was best, without asking any of us." The words hang in the air, heavy and sharp, slicing through the silence. Kody fidgets in his seat, his jaw tightening as Robyn's accusations chip away at the image he has carefully maintained for decades. Christine leans forward, elbows to her knees, fingers tapping out a rhythm of barely contained anger. Meri's lips pressed together, her eyes glistening with her struggle for composure. For a moment, even the judge pauses, the furrow in her brow deepening as she watches the unfolding drama. The lawyer presses on, demanding of Robyn details she had long kept hidden. Late-night conversations, private decisions, choices made without the other wives. Robyn's voice shakes, but she continues, telling of moments of loneliness, emotional neglect, and concealed financial decisions. Every word cuts like a hammer stroke against Kody's defenses. Christine gets up next, her tone cold and calculated as she recalls how she never thought she would have to relive some moments in public view. "You promised transparency, Kody," she says, her tone tart with incredulity. But promises are empty when broken in silence. Kody opens his mouth to respond, but the weight of testimony silences whatever argument he may have had. Robyn looks down, her head shaking almost imperceptibly, as if to say, "We're tired of excuses." The atmosphere in the courtroom tightens further when Meri is called. She speaks in a hushed and measured tone, each word heavy with emotion. "I trusted him," she whispers, her voice catching, "and I can't tell you how much it hurts to realize that trust was misplaced." The room seems to shrink around her, the tension almost palpable. Spectators shift uncomfortably, whispering quietly to one another, aware they are witnessing the unraveling of a family in real time. It is a defining moment when the attorney produces a series of text messages, photographs, and documents, proof of clandestine meetings, undisclosed financial transactions, and conversations contradictory to Kody's earlier statements. The room responds immediately. Gasps ripple across the gallery, eyes widen, and even the judge's pen pauses over her notes. Christine narrows her eyes, her lips pressed firmly together, studying the evidence. Kody's hand begins to shake, and for the first time, his calm, composed veneer falters. Now the lawyer presses on, questioning Robyn about times when she felt emotionally isolated. She describes nights she lay alone, quietly crying in rooms that should have been filled with love and support. "I felt invisible," she says, her voice breaking, "like none of us mattered except in the ways we served him." The courtroom is electric. The words hang in the air like a storm breaking. Kody shifts again, every muscle taut, unable to look directly at her, as though avoiding her gaze might make the accusations less than real. Meri's testimony grows more impassioned. She recalls a specific confrontation with Kody, one long buried in memory, where promises were made but never kept. He said it was for the family, she says, voice shaking. But I couldn't see how it could be for any of us except him. The court is silent, the tension in the air almost palpable, as every listener feels raw the pain of a family torn apart by secrecy and betrayal. Suddenly, a letter is produced, a handwritten note allegedly from one of the wives, detailing financial inconsistencies and secret conversations that no one had known existed. The courtroom collectively gasps. Kody freezes, color draining from his face as he realizes how serious this has all gotten. Christine's eyes flare with recognition. She knows this could change everything. The lawyer raises it high, letting every word resound within the room, every syllable adding to Kody's growing sense of dread. The wives exchange glances, subtle yet loaded. Robyn's jaw tightens, Janelle's lips pressing together in a thin line, while Meri's eyes glisten with unshed tears. Each woman has her own history, her own resentments, yet together they form one solid front of truth that stands against deception. Kody's hands clench the edge of the bench, his knuckles white, as he realizes the fragile web he has created is disintegrating, thread by thread. Christine steps forward, her heels clicking softly, but with authority, and lays out moments of deception she had previously endured in silence. Every detail exposes the fractures in Kody's relationships, not only with each wife, but within the family as a whole. Robyn glances briefly at Christine, a mix of sympathy and resolve passing between them. The air feels thick, heavy with tension, even the judge leaning forward slightly, aware of explosive revelations now surfacing. As the session winds down, the emotional intensity does not fade. The wives sit together briefly, exchanging glances that speak volumes, while Kody remains in his seat, silent and overwhelmed. He looks at Robyn, at Christine, at Janelle, at Meri, realizing the full weight of decades of hidden choices and broken promises. The courtroom is still, every spectator sensing the tipping point has arrived. By the third session, the courtroom atmosphere has changed. Sunlight streaming through the tall windows seems almost acerbic, casting sharp, unmerciful lines across faces taut with emotion. Kody sits erect, his hands clasped together in a tight fist, knuckles white, every muscle taut. The weight of the previous testimonies pressed against him, smothering and relentless. Every whispered accusation, every evidence laid bare, feels like a hammer striking directly at his carefully maintained facade. Christine rises again, her movements deliberate, her heels clicking softly against the polished floor. Her expression is icy, her voice precise, and cuts across the silence. "Do you even realize what your choices have done?" she asks, her gaze locking on Kody. "This is not about you, Kody. This is about all of us, and about the damage that's been done in silence." The courtroom was silent, tension almost unbearable. Robyn's face has paled, her hands shaking slightly in her lap, though she does her best to compose herself. I just wanted him to see what it's like for us," she says softly, her voice catching with emotion. "To understand how decisions made in secrecy affect every member of this family." The words cut through the air of the room, making that space feel weighted with an almost palpable heft. Meri speaks next. Her voice is quiet, yet layered with years of pent-up emotion. She talks about an argument long since buried, a flashpoint where promises were given and then broken, where trust was lost. "I believed him," she says quietly, "and every time I thought he was telling the truth, I realized he was hiding something else. And I don't know if I can ever forgive that." Tears streak through her eyes, but Meri doesn't back off. She pushes each word across the courtroom like a knife. The next evidence the lawyer shows consists of a series of text messages and recordings that reveal direct contradictions of Kody's previous statements. The tension spikes instantly. The room collectively gasped. Spectators whispered in hushed tones, and even the judge leaned forward, recognizing the gravity of what was being revealed. Kody's face loses color. His composure finally breaks. He reaches for a glass of water, but his hands shake so violently it spills slightly onto the floor. Christine steps closer, her voice growing stronger, now tinged with anger. "You've lied to all of us," she says with deliberate force in each word. "For years, for decades, hiding decisions that affected our lives in ways you don't even begin to understand." Her eyes dart between Kody and the document clutched in the lawyer's hand, each line a part of the puzzle unraveling his defenses. The courtroom seems to breathe tension as Janelle is called forward. She recounts private confrontations, moments when Kody dismissed concerns, prioritizing secrecy over honesty, control over compassion. Her voice shakes from time to time, belying the pain beneath her words. "It wasn't just the money or the decisions," she says softly, voice quivering. "It was about feeling invisible. And for years, we all felt that way." The courtroom has fallen still. Even the gallery is silent, caught up in the emotional web she weaves. Then comes the bombshell, a letter, found only minutes before court, supposedly from one of the wives, detailing clandestine discussions and financial decisions Kody made without anyone else knowing. The lawyer holds it aloft, letting every word sink in, and the room reacts immediately. Christine's eyes widen in recognition, a flash of anger crossing her features. Robyn's lips press together, her jaw tightening, and Meri blinks back tears, every muscle in her body taut with anticipation. Kody stands up, pale-faced, shaking. I can explain," he starts, voice weakening from scrutiny. Christine interrupts him, unwavering. "Explain what? That you chose secrecy over the family? You really think that your decisions were more important than the rest of us?" Her words are like sharpened arrows shooting through the room, leaving Kody speechless. Next, the lawyer plays an audio recording of Kody in a lie, where he had said one thing to each wife. The sound of his own voice, caught in contradiction, resounds through the courtroom. Kody slumps, looking to Robyn, then Christine, then Meri, conscious that nothing he could say would ever untangle what has been revealed. Each wife exchanges glances, her expression containing her vindication and heartbreak. Suddenly, a new angle appears. Financial transactions tied not just to Kody, but to outside parties, showing the consequences of secrecy to have reached beyond the household. The courtroom gasps collectively, the energy crackling as the stakes grow higher. Christine leans in, her voice icy, yet deliberate, articulating every word. "You've endangered more than just our trust. You've endangered our lives, our future." Kody's hands shake as he attempts to hold composure, but his defenses crumble further when Janelle presents additional proof. Notes of conversations where Kody dismissed concerns, promised transparency, and yet deliberately withheld the truth. Robyn watches in silence. Meri swallows hard. Christine's eyes blaze, the culmination of decades of frustration and heartbreak, in one sharp gaze. By the end of the session, the emotional tension is at its peak. The courtroom feels charged, electric, with the combined weight of betrayal, heartbreak, and raw truth. The spectators lean forward, unable to tear their eyes away from the unraveling drama. Every word spoken, every glance exchanged, carries the potential to ignite further conflict. Parenthetic. A courtroom this morning is oppressive, thick with tension and anticipation. Every seat is filled, every eye fixed on Kody as he takes his place at the defense table. The highly polished wooden floor shines under the harsh overhead lights, reflecting the weight of decades of secrets now exposed. Christine sits ramrod straight in the front row, her jaw clenched, her fingers tightly interlaced as she readies herself. Robyn's face is white, but her body is taut with resolution. Meri, seated at the side, bites her lip so hard it turns white, trying to keep her emotions contained. The lawyer starts off with specificity, detailing a timeline of decisions, secret meetings, and information withheld that implicates Kody in a series of both emotional and financial betrayals. With each revelation, another blow lands, echoing in the courtroom. Kody rises briefly to defend himself, words fumbling, weak against the damning weight of testimony and evidence. He stumbles and falters. Christine stands, her heels clicking against the floor, every step deliberate, commanding attention. Her voice, now sharp and unwavering, cuts through the room. "Do you even hear yourself, Kody?" she asks, eyes blazing. "You claim it was for the family, but all it ever was for you. Your choices have hurt every single one of us." The courtroom seems to hold its breath, the tension so thick it could be felt pressing against the skin. Robyn takes the stand next, her voice steady but low, trembling only slightly. "I watched him make decisions, secretly, that affected all of us," she says. "And the worst part? We were powerless to stop it." Her words hang heavy, and Kody's eyes dart nervously, avoiding hers. The gallery murmurs softly, the spectators sensing the depth of betrayal being revealed. Slowly, Meri rises, her eyes brimming with tears. "I trusted him," she says in a barely audible tone, "and every time I thought we were equal partners, every time I thought we had a say, he was hiding something from us. Every choice, every action was his alone." The room is silent now. Even the judge leans forward, taking in the gravity of her words. Kody's hands clench around the edge of the bench so tightly that his knuckles turn white. The recordings and letters now introduced by the lawyer indicate not just secret meetings, but discrepancies in financial dealings and promises broken. The documents are placed before Kody, each one a dagger piercing the carefully constructed image he projected over decades. Christine leans in closer, eyes narrow, voice now trembling with anger and pain. "You've betrayed every single person in this room. And for what? Control." A hush falls as Janelle recalls a long-buried confrontation, a night when Kody dismissed his wife's concerns and chose secrecy over honesty. "He said it was for the family," she says softly, eyes on him, "but it was never for us. It was always for him." Her words hang in the room like a shroud. Robyn and Meri exchange brief, knowing glances, a silent acknowledgement that the truth they feared has now been fully exposed. The tension increases when Christine slams her hand softly on the bench for attention. "We've held our peace for too long," she says. "We've watched, we've waited, and now the truth is finally here. And it's time you face it, Kody." His lips shake, but no words come out. He swallows, knowing no explanation can stop the avalanche of truths cascading around him. The lawyer introduces the final piece of evidence for this session, a series of messages and documents proving the decisions that directly contradicted what Kody had individually told each wife. At once, the room responds. Gasps ripple across the gallery. A blood drains from Kody's face, the last remnants of composure completely shattered. Robyn's jaw clenches. Meri wipes away a tear, and Christine's face hardens into a steely resolve. The courtroom is charged, every person in it conscious that this was the moment things broke. Finally, raw emotion overtakes the session. Kody sits with his head bowed, hands covering his face, as the weight of decades of secrets finally crushes him. Christine, Robyn, Janelle, and Meri watch, their own emotions a mixture of vindication, heartbreak, and sorrow. Even the usually stoic judge looks tense, her pen hovering over notes, aware that the family's dynamics have been irrevocably altered in the span of this session. The gavel fell, and with that, the session came to an end. The courtroom was left in stunned silence, with spectators whispering to one another, eyes wide in the wake of what they had just seen. Kody sat unmoving, the reality of the consequences from here on out finally settling in. The wives slowly get up, exchanging subtle glances as each knows the next session will uncover even more, and perhaps no one will leave unchanged. The tension in the courtroom is palpable as the fifth session gets underway. The air feels heavy, almost oppressive, as if even the walls know something monumental is going to take place. Kody sits at the defense table, hands clenched in front of him, eyes darting nervously between the wives and the judge. He shifts, trying to project calm, but it's clear the weight of previous sessions has left him on edge. Christine sits forward on the bench, elbows on her knees, her jaw clenched, and her eyes fixed on Kody like a hawk ready to pounce. Robyn sits beside him, her expression controlled but taut, while Meri and Janelle catch each other's eyes in a quick, wordless exchange of understanding. Every movement, every glance, every breath in the room feels magnified, charged with unspoken anticipation. The lawyer proceeds, his voice calm but deliberate, and introduces the first piece of evidence, a series of financial documents and private correspondences that had been methodically obscured. Files contain not just discrepancies, but intentional omissions, en passant, when Kody made decisions without keeping any of the wives in the loop. Each paper feels like a hammer hitting Kody's carefully constructed facade. Christine rises, her heels clicking sharply against the polished floor. "Do you understand the damage you've caused?" she asks, voice low but cutting. "Not just financially, but emotionally. Every decision you made, without our knowledge, chipped away at trust, at family, at everything we believed in." Kody opens his mouth to respond, but no words come. A weight of decades of secrecy presses down on him, muting him in a way no courtroom procedure ever could. Robyn's voice joins the narrative, calm but piercing. "We weren't just kept in the dark," she says. "We were manipulated, made to feel like our voices didn't matter. And for years, we let it slide, until now." Her words hang in the air, slicing through any remaining defense Kody had built. The gallery murmurs, spectators leaning forward, drawn into the raw intensity of the confrontation. Meri steps forward, her voice barely above a whisper, though laced with underlying determination. "I trusted him," she says softly, "and that trust has been broken in ways I can't even begin to describe. He made choices that affected all of us and the children, without consulting any of us." The words pierce the silence, and for a moment, the whole courtroom seems to hang suspended, every heartbeat loud, every eye on Kody. Then comes the bombshell, an envelope handed to the judge moments before, now opened in full view, containing letters, recordings, and detailed accounts from all the wives about years of hidden meetings, decisions made unilaterally, and emotional betrayals no one expected. The room gasps collectively as the lawyer starts reading aloud, each line adding to the weight of the storm brewing. Christine leans forward, her voice cold and unyielding. "For years, we tolerated excuses. For years, we hoped for transparency. And for years, you chose silence over truth. The echo of her words fills the courtroom, striking at Kody with a force he cannot withstand. Robyn and Meri remain composed but tense, a mixture of satisfaction and heartbreak crossing their features. The attorney now changes gears to the final set of documents: text messages, financial transactions, and notes proving that Kody acted behind their backs more than once. His defenses crumble as Christine reads aloud, detailing moments of betrayal that reach further than personal relationships into every aspect of family life. Kody slumps, all composure shattered at this realization that every attempt at justification has failed. As the session wears on, the wives exchange subtle nods, reinforcing a unity to which Kody can no longer turn a blind eye. Even the judge appears rigid, his eyes acknowledging the explosive emotional energy in the room. Kody finally speaks, voice low and shaking. I did what I thought was best," he begins, but it's empty, unable to conceal the panic and guilt etched across his features. Christine's eyes blaze, refusing to let him off the hook. The tension reaches a peak when a hidden piece of evidence is found, a detailed note outlining a financial decision that Kody made unilaterally, which contradicts every previous statement he had given. The courtroom reacts instantaneously. Gasps ripple across the gallery, whispers of shock and disbelief filling the room. Kody's face turns pale, his hands trembling as he realizes the depth of the storm now fully unleashed. Robyn's jaw clenches, Meri blinks back her tears, and Christine's face sets in a steely determination. The courtroom seems to freeze, as every person in it realizes that what has finally come to light may alter the dynamics of the family forever.